resource can see the resource, but is mainly interested in what's it costing us? And how do we make sure that it doesn't cost us more than we need it to? Now, these basic roles, you're not really going to see them much because they are too broad. They give you way too many permissions. And we always want to be working with something called POLP, the principle of least privilege, only granting the permissions that a person needs in order to do their job. And the basic IAM roles, way too broad, giving people way too many permissions. So this is not what we want. What we want to do instead is lean a little bit more towards perhaps predefined roles. Now, predefined roles are a bundle of permissions that Google has already bundled up for us and named. In this case, instance admin. Instance admin is creating a number of, or bundling together a number of permissions. Delete, get, list, set machine type, start, stop. These are specific to compute engine, to virtual machines. This set of permissions only allows my user to do those 6 actions on virtual machine instances. You will notice that the permissions are written in a very kind of API-friendly format. Compute, which service is this relating to? Instances, which aspect of this service is this permission relating to? And then a verb, delete, get, list, set, start, stop. If you are working programmatically, if you are writing any programmatic commands, it follows this same format. Compute, instances, delete, name of the instance you want to delete. So it's really easy to remember how these permissions go together. But we're still thinking about that principle of least privilege. Now, the predefined roles are really good. It means you don't really have to think too hard. They are the likely permissions that that user is going to need. But what if that's still too many permissions for your users? Your principle of least privilege says actually that predefined role is still too broad. That is where you can go custom. I only want my users to get, list, start, stop. That is it. Don't want them to be able to delete or set the machine type. So you create your own role, give it its own name. All of this inside the console, where's my mouse gone? This is managed from, let me go back to my working project, is managed from the IAM console. And here I can just, as you see, IAM also gives you a little rundown of, you've given these people so many permissions, you've not really used any of them. Maybe you want to think about that principle of least privilege and reduce the permissions that you've given them. So that's quite handy. After a couple of days, it will give you a rundown of, you've not actually used most of these. But if I want to add a user in, I'm going to add their email address. So let's go with this one. Oops. Here you go. And then choose from the drop down. Obviously, you can do this programmatically as well if you're in the console. Choose either the basics, I don't want these way, way too broad, or I can be very specific. Let's go for storage object viewer. Choose the set of permissions that I want to assign, and then save. And now that principal, that user is now able to view objects. And that's it. That's the only thing they can do. So it's very easy. If I wanted to actually customize this, that is fine. There we go. I can create a new role and specify the exact permissions that I want and then assign that user. So it's very easy to adhere to that principle of least privilege by using the IAM service. So custom roles, you set these either at the project or organizational level. The only downside, let's say, to a custom role is that you as the company need to manage those permissions. If Google adds in functionality to a virtual machine, you would have to go in and just amend that role to add in that new functionality, access to that new functionality. If you're using the predefined roles, obviously Google is in charge of managing those, and so they are updated more easily. Okay. IAM roles, mostly for humans. But what if you have a system that needs to communicate with another system, or a service to service communication? That is where you get a service account. It allows your virtual machine to interact with cloud storage, to read and write from your object storage solution without needing a human being to authorize the process in between. In this case, the service accounts are really helpful for allowing that sort of service to service communication. But your service account still has an email address. You just saw me add a human user by using a Gmail account. If you create a service account, that still has an email address. But usually it will have gserviceaccount.com in the domain. So you know this is not a human user. This is a service account. But I am still going to assign the roles in exactly the same way to a service account that I do to a human user. Just go in here, choose the roles I want to assign, exactly the same way of interacting with them, but they do have an email address. You are still going to assign the roles to grant the correct permissions to that service account in exactly the same way as you do with a human user. You can also assign a human user the ability to use a service account. So essentially, you can say, Alice as an individual doesn't have the virtual machine to storage permissions. But when Alice assumes the service role, she then has the correct permissions to access via that virtual machine, or as that virtual machine, to access the documents stored in that cloud storage solution. So service accounts, they are to allow services to communicate with each other, but a human being can be granted access to their permissions as well. Okay. You'll be pleased to know we've just got 5 and 6 to go through, and then we will have a short break. And when we come back, we will do the first lab. Hang on, where's my timing? Oh, you know what? We might get through the lab before the break. It's a very short lab. We'll see. We'll see if I carry on rabbiting on or not. Now, a few slides ago, we were talking about organization nodes. And I said, if you are a Google Workspace customer, you will automatically have a Google Workspace. You will automatically have an organization node. If you are not a Google Workspace customer and you want an organization, that's totally fine. But you need to set up Cloud Identity. Cloud Identity, that is where you are going to manage your users. So this is different from other cloud providers. With other cloud providers, you create individual users inside your cloud system. With Google, everything is attached to an email address. So Cloud Identity, that is where you are going to manage your users' emails. That is where you are going to create your user groups. Then that user group is assigned an email address. You can then assign that email address permissions within IAM. Okay, so they're two slightly different things. Cloud Identity is about who are my users and what are their email addresses. I am is what permissions should this email address have? That's the easiest way for my brain to think about it. You are all currently in a Google group, the mailing list for Get Certified. That is a Google group. And if you have a look at the emails that have been sent across to you, you'll see, can't remember what the email address is off the top of my head, but you will see that it's just been sent to a Google group. And there are 749 of us currently in this group. So it's a big old group, an easy way to assign permissions to a large number of people at once. So cloud identity, this is where you manage your users and groups inside the Google admin console. You will then assign permissions within Google Cloud by using Cloud IAM. Cloud identity is great if you've got an existing Active Directory or LDAP system, whether that's on-premise, whether it's Microsoft Active Directory, wherever it is, you can link it in to Cloud Identity, which means you don't have to recreate all of your users. You just bring in the relevant domain in order to utilize and manage your users there. The Google Admin Console can be used to disable user accounts and remove them from groups. Remember that when you are working with users, groups are your friend. It is an easy way to add and remove permissions from people. Rather than having to do that manually, you just shift them from one group to the next, or you delete them from a group. So much easier to handle multiple people with the same permissions, making sure that everyone has the same permissions. Use your groups. Cloud identity comes in two flavors, free and premium. Free, obviously free. Premium, you got to pay for. A little bit of extra functionality in the premium edition, but for a lot of individual users, those who don't have a Google Workspace environment, the free version of Cloud Identity is fine. And Cloud Identity, as I said, comes as standard with Google Workspace. You will automatically have an organization node. Our last little bit, how do we interact with Google Cloud? Well, you've already seen me use the console, the GUI, the user interface, a lovely little point and click interface, lovely visuals, really easy to utilize. It is a great way to explore if you're new to Google Cloud. Use the console to start with, because you can click on drop downs, you can have a little search through things. If you are a little bit more confident, you might want to use the software development kits or SDKs or the Cloud Shell, a programmatic terminal available in the browser. We'll get to that in a second. The Cloud Console, you've seen me use it. Visual, easy to find your resources, easy to search through and connect to resources as you're using it. So point and click, lots of lovely, oops, let's cancel that one. I can have a little look for virtual machines. I can have a look for databases. There is a search bar up here, or I can use the navigation menu on the side. Very intuitive, very easy to search through. It also has built-in tutorials. Oh, not on this page, that's fine. In the help section, you can start tutorials on certain services. So it's a great learning environment. And of course, Gemini is embedded into it as well. If you are a fan of the programmatic access, you can use the in-browser Cloud Shell. There's a little button at the top, a little terminal button that will then bring up a browser-based terminal where you can programmatically work with your resources, typing out your commands, or you can download the Google CLI and work with it in your preferred IDE if you work with Visual Studio Code, or if you just want it built into your kind of Linux terminal, you can utilize it there. It's going to take a moment, so I'll leave that pulling itself up. The SDK, the Software Development Kit, is a collection of command line tools. The main ones you are going to use is G Cloud, G-Cloud is the Google Cloud CLI. It's allowing you to create virtual machines, to work with other systems programmatically. There's also BQ, the BigQuery command line, if you're working with data warehousing and a large amount of analytics systems. The CLIs are downloadable, the SDKs, sorry, the software development kits are downloadable to run in your own environment, or they are built in to the Cloud Shell, which hopefully is up and running now. Yes, there we go. The Cloud Shell automatically built in G Cloud, compute, instances, create, get cert, 2210, zone equals US East 1A. Whenever I do this, I always forget what the syntax is. No, wrong way around. That's fine. One last go. No, fine. That's all good. When I remember the syntax, you can very easily type out a command and create your virtual machines or other resources. But you can see that the syntax for the programmatic commands very similar to the roles. Compute, instances, create, compute, instances, delete. Exactly the same format as the permissions we had in our role. APIs, if you are writing your own software and you want to interact with Google Cloud services from your software, the APIs are available in 12 languages, I believe, including Java, Python, PHP, C#, Go, Node.js, Ruby, and C++. There are a couple of others available. It's constantly expanding. And as I mentioned earlier, if you are a small screen person, if you're a phone person, there is a Google Cloud mobile app. It has a limited functionality, but it's great for on the go. If you're out of the office for a day and you just need to keep an eye or start a couple of databases or virtual machines, or you just want to have a little look at the logs or trace, the app is really good for that. For the most part, you probably want to do it on the big screen. It's just a little bit easier, but it is great to keep an eye on things when you are out and about. So 4 ways to interact: the console, the CLI or Cloud Shell, the APIs, and the Google Cloud app. Okay, this brings us to our second quiz. Choose the correct completion. Services and APIs are enabled on a per what basis? Folder, project, organization, or billing account. Now think of what happened in my demo and think of what we said from a billing perspective. Good, good. Lots of brilliant answers coming in. Wonderful. Absolutely. On a per project basis. Remember that when you create a new project, it won't automatically have those APIs and services turned on for you to make sure you don't accidentally spend a lot of money that you didn't mean to. Order these I am roles from broadest to finest grained. Custom, predefined, basic, predefined, custom, basic, basic, predefined, custom. So from the broadest to the most specific, what are we looking at here? Yeah, a sweep across the board. Absolutely, everyone getting this one correct. That's what I like to see. Fantastic. Basic. You're really not going to use those very often at all. They are too broad. They give you too many permissions. It's much harder to control. Predefined. Those are the ones that Google has already created for us, bundled together, likely permissions for certain tasks or certain job roles. Custom, this is where you can be much more specific. Maybe those predefined roles are already too permissive and you want to limit that down. from a custom perspective. Which of these values is globally unique, permanent, and unchangeable, but can be modified by the customer during creation? Project name, project ID, project number, or the credit card number? Fabulous. Great answers coming in. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. 100%. The project ID is mutable during creation, but once it's created, that's it. You're stuck with it. So really useful to pick an initial project name that is unique, or if it doesn't matter to you, fine, just go with the auto-generated one. The reason it's sometimes helpful to have a project ID that is sort of memorable to you as a human being is if you're working programmatically, you're going to have to type in the project ID. So a little bit easier sometimes to have a more human readable project ID, but absolutely not necessary as long as it is globally unique. Alrighty, we are going to have a break, a 10-minute break. I'll pop a timer up so you know what the timings are. And then I am going to do a lab, the first lab, talk you through that. And then we will crack on with our final module of the day. Wonderful. Thank you for being with me so far. Go and have a little stretch, blink, look away from the screen. Don't do what I do, move away from the big internet and go and have a look at the small internet whilst you're on your break. Have an actual step away. Popping my timer up for 10 minutes. I will see you very shortly. Okie dokie. Alrighty, everyone, welcome back. Hello, hello, hello. Just a correction from me. When I was talking about the folders and I said you could have a nested 4 folders, I misspoke. It's actually 10. You can have 10 layers of nested folders if you wish. I think I forgot because that just seems a massive amount to me. So just a clarification for that one. I knew something felt a bit wrong as I said it. This then brings us on to our first lab of the day. Remember, these labs will not be enabled for you. They are going to be enabled at the end of the session. Okay, so this is a watch rather than a follow along. But in the classroom, after class today, this first lab will be enabled. And you just click on it, click Open Lab, and it then takes you to this page. All of the Google Labs have a similar display. You will have a Start Lab button over here and a timer. That timer tells you how long this environment is available for you. Remember, you get 3 attempts at each lab. You might not need 3 attempts, that's totally fine. But if you time out, don't panic. If it's your first go, just go back and start again. You don't have to start immediately, you can take a little break, but only click Start Lab when you are ready to begin. Okay, that's really important. On the side, you have an overview of the tasks, and then as you go through, you have a breakdown of everything that you need to do. Okay. This first lab is really short. It is just about getting you used to logging into a lab and then creating something very quickly. Okay, so don't worry that it's a 25-minute lab, and even in the demo, I don't think it will take a full 25 minutes, even though I do love to talk. So when you get to this, after class today, remember it's not enabled yet. You're going to click Start Lab. A nice, easy, very obvious button. At which point you then get given a fair amount of information. You get given your student login details, your username and password, the project ID that you're going to be using, and then the region and zone. Now, what you then want to do is open the Google console. What you will notice here is that I am currently in my personal Google Skills account. There is a green H up there because my name starts with H. But what I want to do is open the Google Cloud Console by right-clicking and then opening in a new private window or incognito window. If you're on a Mac, make sure you've got secondary click turned on so that you can right-click and open it in a private browser. The reason for this, if I open it in a private browser, it should automatically log me in with the lab credentials. You will have to, every time you do the labs, you'll have to just accept these little things that pop up. Just agree and continue. But if I zoom in, you see this is not a green Hannah circle. This is student 01, blah, 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 blah. That's how I know I'm now in the sandbox. I'm in that protected environment. It's not going to cost me any money. Okay. If you log into this and you see your color and your initial and your email address up here, immediately log out. Okay. Click onto this, sign out, and try and reopen the lab using that right click and opening in a private browser. Okay, that's really important to bear in mind. Now, hopefully you've got more than one screen and you can have the lab environment on one screen and the instructions on another. That just makes it a little bit easier, not mandatory at all. But in order to demo, I'm going to do the old side-by-side trick, which means it might be a little smooshed, but it will be fine. Make this one a bit bigger, make that one a bit bigger. Now you'll notice there's a little golden tab here as well. What we have throughout the labs are checkpoints that basically just make sure that you're doing the lab successfully. And if you pass the checkpoint, you get some points. Okay. So that is just there to give you a little rundown. At the moment, if I click to check my progress, I wouldn't get any points because I've not done anything. So what I'm going to do is scroll down through the instructions. In this particular lab, this first one, again, is just getting you used to working with the lab environments, but we are going to use the Google Marketplace to deploy a LAMP stack, Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP, in order to have a little website just up and running, basically. Task 1 is how to sign into the Google console. We've done that. We used an incognito or private browser, and then it should automatically sign you in. If it does not sign you in automatically, grab your credentials from here by clicking on these two squares. That will then copy the text ready for you to paste it in. And you do that with your password as well. This project ID will match this one here. So that's the environment that I'm working in. And the region and zone are useful when you are deploying things later on. So task 1 is just how to log in. We don't need to go through those instructions because we've done it. So what we'll do is we'll go to the cloud marketplace. Within the lab environment, you can navigate in a couple of ways. You can either go up to the hamburger menu at the top, and that brings up your sidebar, and you can then scroll through to find the service that you want. In this case, it would be the marketplace. What I tend to do is use depending on how big or small your window is, I tend to use the search bar. Personally, I find that's a little bit faster, but it is up to you, your preference. If you can't see the search bar, just look for the magnifying glass. So it might be that your screen is just that little bit smaller. And then you can type in what you're looking for. In this case, I'm looking for the marketplace. Nice and easy. Both ways will get you to where you need to be. Now, the marketplace is exactly that. It is somewhere where you can buy pre-configured solutions, whether that's infrastructure as a code or just a software-based system. It is there and available for you to utilize. We are specifically going to look for a LAMP stack, and to do that, we don't use this top search bar. We want to search within the marketplace itself. So there's one slightly further down. We're going to type in LAMP. There are a number of different LAMP stacks available. We are going to go with the LAMP stack by Google, this top one here. Okay. It happens to be the first result, nice and easy. Click on that result and it takes you to a breakdown about that particular service on this page, or that particular product. On this page, you can read through what is it actually going to deploy, what is the software architecture that's running, what is the pricing. Now, this is an estimated price because it is assuming that you are using the standard virtual machine, that you are not adding any CPU or RAM to this configuration. So it is an estimate, but that works fine. It's also going to give you a bit more information about the services that runs on it or that are related. In this lab, feel free to explore all of that information. But essentially, you're just going to click on this great big blue Get Started button. Nice and easy. And all of this is in the instructions as well. So just if you're not sure what to do next, just go back to the instructions. They are very clear. Before you deploy, agree to the terms and conditions. Because this is a marketplace item, we just have to agree that, yes, we're going to adhere to the usage rules and to the configuration that it has chosen. Yes, I want it to be in this project. That's the project I'm already in. It's the only one that will be available for you in this lab. I'm going to click on the little checkbox and agree. When it comes to these labs, I'll come back to that point. Deploy. Click the lovely deploy button. And then it's going to specify that there are certain APIs not yet turned on. Remember, APIs are enabled per project, and they are not enabled automatically. If you try to use a service that requires a disabled API, you will get a message, and then you can just easily click the enable button and it will sort those out for you. So in this case, Compute Engine, my virtual machine API, is already enabled, but the infrastructure manager, the one that's going to deploy this for me, was not. You can name your deployment whatever you like. You can keep it LAMP1, or you can call it whatever name you wish. Type in your own name. We are going to stick with the existing account for our service account. Remember, the service account allows a system to communicate with another system, or a service to interact with another. In this case, whenever you turn on the Compute Engine API, whenever you enable that, it will create you a default Compute Engine service account. So as soon as I enabled that API, that account was created. And I'm just going to stick with that. I'm not going to do anything fancy. Choose the zone. My lab wants me to use Central 1A. So just from my drop down, I can choose Central 1A. Fantastic. Machine type, how much CPU and RAM, essentially. That's what that machine type is saying. If I scroll down, I can see that it's already defaulted to the E2 series. Great. And I want an E2 medium. Oh, well, the default was small, so I want to change that one. Drop down, just going to choose the medium. There we go. And this is going to give me 1 to 2 CPUs, 2 CPUs and 4 gig of memory. That is all I need to do. I am going to revert the name of my deployment to stick to LAMP-1. The reason I'm doing that is because of this check my progress. Potentially, if I've renamed it, I might not get my points. And I want my points. So I'm just going to rename it back to LAMP1. In the real world, you can call it whatever you like. But for the points, that's what we're here for. We just want to make sure that we're not straying from the instructions. So you can have a little scroll through, have a look at the other configuration, but I'm just going to deploy. And that'll take a moment or two to just create that resource for me. So it's deploying at the moment. If I click on check my progress, I am immediately going to get a red circle and a little thing saying, please use the marketplace to deploy the LAMP stack. The reason I'm getting a red mark and a kind of a feel is because it's not done yet. I've clicked that check my progress too soon. And if that happens in any of your labs, if you click a check my progress and you get an leave it a minute or two. Try again a little bit later. It might just be that you've clicked it too soon. And that does happen. Don't panic. This is just going to take a couple of minutes to deploy. In any of the labs that you are doing, please don't stray from the instructions. If you just want to look at stuff, that's fine. If I wanted to go and search for Cloud SQL, for instance, if I want to have a look at databases, not an issue. I can go and look at other stuff. Please don't try to create anything outside the boundaries of the lab. If you do, what might happen is that your lab gets shut down because you're trying to do something outside the boundaries of the instructions. So by all means, like, navigate through, have a look at stuff, but don't create anything that's not in the lab instructions. So that's just as a thing to be aware of. Aha! My LAMP stack is almost fully completed. My virtual machine is just coming up and running, but it has created me a firewall rule to allow HTTP traffic. It has created a random password for me to log into my my WordPress account. And then the machine is just, I'm impatient, so I'm going to refresh the page. There we go, fully created. And my machine is called lamp-1/VM. Now, if I click on the old button, I should get a green tick. Assessment completed, hooray. So just be mindful, if you get that red mark, don't panic. It just means you clicked the button a little bit too soon. What I can do is go into details and just see a little bit more about the information. I can see the name of the deployment, where I chose to deploy it, which zone, when it was deployed. I can also then have a look at logging into the admin page, or having a look at the instance itself, logging in to the email. There we go. There is my Apache web page that's been created. Very easy, very quick to deploy. Like I said, this lab is mostly just to get you used to logging in to the lab environment. The others have a few extra steps. This is a very straightforward one, which is why I'm not going to linger on it too long. Something else I recommend when you finish a lab, you don't have to, but it's helpful. Just click sign out. Just means that the next time you log in, you should definitely log in with the correct credentials. If you finish the lab with plenty of time to spare, click End Lab. Thank you very much for your time. What's happening under the hood is every time you click Start Lab, there's a Terraform template that's creating your resources. And when you click End Lab, it's tearing down those resources, basically. So, really easy. Remember that lab will not be enabled until the end of the session today. But just talking you through how to navigate the environment, how to create and work with those services. That is our cloud marketplace, a very straightforward LAMP stack deployment. Our final module of today is about virtual machines and networks, VPCs. So we deployed there a virtual machine and a firewall from a pre-existing script. Basically, what we were using there in the marketplace was an infrastructure as code script that was going to create those resources for us. But if we want to do it a little bit manually, if we want to have a little bit more control, we can investigate the Google configurations of networks, of VPCs, of virtual machines, and how we can utilize the scalability of the cloud as well. Sorry, I got hiccups. There we go. So we are going to look at VPCs. Now in Google, they use